It's like on cue, isn't it?
All right, I think we're live. What's up, people? This is part two. For anybody that was watching last night, or if you're watching the replay, the original podcast, the power went out for about an hour suddenly at my house, so I couldn't do nothing. Couldn't, you guys couldn't resume because it was all running through me. So we're just gonna kind of talk about Metroid Dread and get in, a little bit further into our discussion about it. And I don't think no big news came out since yesterday. I did play more. What's up is I did play last night about an hour and saw some really cool stuff. So I'm excited to talk more about it. I did notice one other minor complaint, I guess, would be the when you teleport to a new location, it is a bit sluggish. Not sure the reasoning for that, but it does seem to take a bit longer than I think it should.
Oh,
I
But
mean,
but
just loading in general.
yeah, the initial boot up too is, I guess, a little bit long, but I keep my game suspended, so I only saw that twice. But other than that, I mean,
but the sound effects to that thing. I've been trying to play the whole game with my headphones on as
yeah.
much as possible, and the sound effects to that are just fucking awesome. Absolutely love it.
See,
So
John Linneman praised this game like audio wise before I played it, because
yeah,
you know how I felt like Bowser's Fury. I was disappointed. It's just the same. It's the same thing with just about every. Wii U sounded good for the time, but going back to Wii U games, Nintendo prioritizes file size being small for their games, and unfortunately, I think that's the main reason. Like the audio, if you put it on a big high end system, not a high end system, but a system with big speakers and a lot of power, it really starts to show. It's like anybody that listened to a low quality MP3 back in the day. Remember, you just download MP3s. One would be super low quality and sound terrible. They don't sound terrible, Switch games, but there's something missing. And he talked it up like this was the audio like experience of the year. Period. Like not even gaming alone. He's basically talked it up. So I was like, oh shit, Nintendo finally, nailed it with. And it's, to me, it's the same. It's right on par with all the other Switch games. It doesn't have the big dynamic range. It doesn't have the clarity, the spatial separation of the channels. Just isn't there. It still sounds good. It's a good sounding game, but it's nothing special. And if he hadn't said that, I wouldn't have even thought about it. It's just, to me, it was just another similar situation. But with headphones, you don't hear, headphones play at very low volume because they're right in your ear. So you can get away with lower quality. It's like, uh, anybody have a digital camera back in the day with, you have the little small LCD screen, some of the older digital cameras before cell phones took over, and you'd
yeah.
take pictures on vacation like me, and you'd look in the little LCD. Oh, that looks great. And you get home, you plug it into your computer, and you put it on your monitor, and it's out of focus, or it looks terrible. I don't know if anybody, you guys, ever experienced that. I had so many pictures ruined from trips and stuff because of that. And it's kind of the same thing. It looked good on the small screen, looks bad on the big screen. Audio is kind of the same thing. With headphones, you can get away with that when they compress and stuff. So I'd almost probably prefer to play it with headphones, thinking that now, but I just don't have a way. I don't have an option on Switch other than playing handheld mode with these plugged in, because these are the only
Don't, don't,
wired.
don't, don't, don't forget that they've got Bluetooth on it, no?
That's true. Forgot about that.
That's literally all I've been using because up until that point, I had the longest
Yeah,
headphone
I
cable in the
maybe I'll
world to
test it
stretch
out.
from my TV to the couch. As soon as they updated it, I was like, please work, please work, please work. Yes, it's working.
That's
Go.
cool.
Yeah,
That's a
I
good.
mean,
I will test that because I think that will help. Um,
people are saying is really good. People are just saying it's pretty much connecting with anything. So, hopefully, whatever you got should connect up. Like I got some jank. I don't even have them here. My wife bought them for me, but they're decent headphones. But just some random brand,
Well, I have
and they connected fine.
the some Turtle Beach, and they worked in my phone. When we were in Discord the other day, I thought it was my headset was out, but it's my USB-C to 3.1 jack adapter that must have went out, because I have a wired headset that I plug into my PlayStation controller and Xbox controller, and it has really good audio. Like, and it covers your whole ear, and it has good bass. It's just really good audio. I plugged it into the Switch, thinking, why wouldn't it work? And there's nothing. You have a selector for PS5 and Xbox, but it's just like, well, how does it has no? It's just a 3.5 millimeter jack. I don't know what that would matter, but I was surprised it doesn't work with my Switch. So I was a bit bummed. So I definitely want to listen to it with headphones, because I was expecting to turn this game on and be like, blown away, and it's just it's what I'm used to with Switch games, and John Lemon just hyped it up to the point where I expected more than I ever would have.
But you're not to listen to that fool.
I usually don't really care about. I care about the quality of sound even less than the quality of the screen. But I do always like sound effects, and I pay attention to like the music and that kind of stuff. And because we're talking about sound, I just wanted to mention, like, when you pick up an item and Dread, you have like the Metroid sound, the doo 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 doo, that stuff. But I really like that little sound effect when you pick up something small, the sloshing that.
It's a new effect, isn't it? It's like,
it's so weird.
And there's one when you get a new like ability, you get the classic music. But there's something I got where I was like expecting that and didn't. It was something different. But yeah, that's the thing. I'm kind of spoiled in my setup where I've been since 2008. Just about every show or every game I've played has been in 5.1 surround, and there's some Switch games that are just 2-channel, like Astral Chain. It literally just has the left and right speaker, which is pretty big disappointment for me. But so I'm sitting there, I actually upgraded my speakers after I got my PS5 because I was so impressed with Astro's Playroom. I'm like, damn, like this sounds like this is definitely a step up over PS4 audio for sure, like without a doubt. I noticed it so much. I was like, man, I'm gonna buy some new speakers because I'm really excited and happy with this increase in audio quality. So I did that, and then I was playing Metroid Dread, and I'm like, man, I don't know, John Linneman. I was about to like send him a 3-paragraph reply to he's full of shit, or not really that. I was just like, yeah, I completely disagree. I don't know what you're doing, but I turned on Kina.
So is it? I mean, the quality that you're disappointed with, is it the multiple channels, or is it just a general sound quality?
The general sound quality is it's quiet. So I normally listen at about 50 on my receiver, like the volume, which is plenty loud for almost everything. With Dread or with any Switch game, it sounds a little quiet, so I turn it up to like 56. I tried like 58, and it gets louder, but when something happens, it's really harsh sounding. It's not crackling, but it's definitely at the edge of its. I don't even know the term to use. It's definitely
I know
it's definitely splitting at the seams or something. It's just beyond. It's going to. So I have to turn it down. It's just uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable sound, and
that's a shame because I'm playing it just like I said, with some jank headphones and stuff, and just they're still good headphones, but sound quality wise, I've been absolutely loving it.
Yeah, and it's not just this game.
But I can completely understand if you've got a certain setup, and then you go to something that is effectively lower quality to what your setup can provide and what everything else is utilizing to take advantage of that full setup, then you are gonna completely notice it and be disappointed by such things.
Yeah, and I did like a Juice Opinions trying to explain, and just to like put it in perspective, because I was like, man, if I type this and then John comes back with something, I was like, well, let me just play. I put on Kina, and I'm like, this is a low or small team indie game. I don't know if they had any backing from Sony or not, but this is their first game. The game boots up, and instantly I'm in like this 360-degree sound field, just not even doing anything. Just the environment instantly is alive. I hear sounds everywhere. I hear birds. I hear stuff everywhere. And then I like start engaging in combat and in the base, and it's just so the clarity of it, the separation of the channels. It's just so much. And this is a small, a small first time game, so that comparison, I'm like, this. There's no way. Like, I'm not just making the. It's not. I'm not just dreaming this. Like, this is just. I was expecting Kina to be on the low end of sound, and it just was like, holy shit! Like, this is just night and day. It's like going from. I was thinking about it. It's like going from VHS to DVD. If you remember those days, or you know.
I remember you. I remember you saying you enjoyed the sound in like Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild's
Um,
more subtle effects, but if I really crank it up, it's the same issue. Like if you get into an action,
is it just Nintendo first party, or is it all Switch
it's
games?
all Switch. Like Doom 2016, probably one of the most disappointing games I have on Switch. It's 5.1, but it's very low quality. It's like
Mhm.
the sound actually what I call clips.
So it's just all the compression,
So it's
pretty
just
much.
just get the games to fit on the cartridges, and Nintendo likes to really shrink them down. I think they throw an extra like file size compression on top of like the audio actual compression. But anyway, long story short, that was I was set up to fail by John Lynn. I was like expecting like Blu-ray quality audio or movie quality audio, and it just didn't deliver. But anyway, still, so I haven't even. The problem is, even when I turn it up, I don't hear those subtle effects. With headphones on, I would hear them, I'm sure. So I'm gonna have to play with headphones. But enough of that. Let's get into the awesome stuff with this game. And I shared screenshots and some video last night. I got into another area with the lights out, um, and it just looks amazing. Like I got the various suits, so her shoulders are glowing, the circles are glowing, and I'm like taking photos left and right.
I've taken so
And
many.
if you charge
I
your
mean, I've taken videos for like review as well, anyway and stuff. But I just can't stop pressing that home button. It's just like the record button, just like record, screenshot. Can't help it.
if you charge your beam, it lights up Samus's suit in the ground below you. It's not like
Yeah,
it's not real time. I can tell that it's but it's a really effective, and it does affect some of the
what they've done
surroundings.
is effective. Yeah,
And I noticed like your reflection in the save areas and stuff in the ground. It's like there's just a bunch of little details, and I know somebody already pointed this out like during a preview event. Like if you're against close to a wall, she puts her hand on the wall. But if
yeah.
there's an opening there, she puts it a little bit different. They even thought to change her
Or
hand
like
placement.
on the ledge and stuff like that. I was
And
gonna say it. And one other thing I absolutely fucking love is when she's running and you've got like a low ledge and she just automatically run over that low ledge. But the whole animation, the way she does it, is just it's
oh,
absolutely
when she just
sublime. Like
auto hops over a little
yeah,
ledge,
auto hops over just like a small ledge and
that's
stuff
so
like that.
cool. Yeah, that
Yeah, when you're running, it keeps the momentum just going and going and going. It's so good.
yeah
One
that
thing I like because you guys mentioned it yesterday quickly. Still, I don't know if that was still no, it must have been on stream because usually the fact the morph ball thing when we're talking about if you use the button or like head down for it. But I learned because I was playing a bit more today as well, and I learned that you can actually run, slide, and then from your slide change into morph ball and
oh
shit.
really?
That's
I
something I'm
gotta
doing
try
a
that.
lot now. It's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
cool.
The run counter is pretty effective too. It takes them out like
yeah. That's awesome.
because
Just like some cool backwards somersault.
I encountered some enemies where the timing on the counter is like nearly impossible. It's just like like Jesus. I gotta disagree with Trilink. He thinks Dread was a bit cheaply made from the sound, drop
Oh,
frame,
no
sluggish load
way.
time. Now, if he framed that as like Nintendo didn't give it like in their tier, the highest tier budget, yeah, there's no way they put their like a what Mario Kart 8 or Animal Crossing budget for this game. I wouldn't think that's anything shocking to even say. Like, but I don't think it was cheaply made. I think all the issues you just pointed out are just a result of the Switch hardware itself and and getting, you know, making the games as
But
small as
I mean,
possible.
the loading. I mean, at the end of the day, you have loading literally just to get to different areas. Now the areas are
Yeah.
in a sizable, but the loading between there's no loading when you run through a door.
Yeah,
The door just opens, you run through, and
yeah.
the
There's
screen is just there. There's no loading whatsoever within that area that you're in.
hmm
It's just going between the
I
different
did
worlds.
notice there's a slight pause going from a cinematic back to gameplay.
From a boss place. I've
Yeah,
noticed that's the only place I've noticed where the boss has been. It's a bit odd.
I don't even
I don't know what it is.
I don't even mind the loading to another area because those loading screens are sexy as fuck, man.
I haven't got bored of them
Every
once.
loading screen is dedicated to, like, if you're traveling via a train or a lift, it's a different pose.
I don't
If your
like the
suit
warp
is
one though.
different, that's incorporated and
Oh,
stuff.
I
The way
love
the
the
light
warp
is
one.
going, it is so sexy.
The
That shit.
warp one for me is
That's what
choppy. It's like really like
it is a little choppy, but that's what I was talking about with the sound effects. When I got the headphones on, it's going.
really.
Like, it's just so good. I'm just like, yo, let's go. This is
See,
fucking
that's why
awesome.
it's just so. I'm so disappointed with, you know, getting my hopes up with Digital Foundry's claim, because I'm like, man, I can actually like fully appreciate, like, because he was talking about how high quality the sound effects are, the sound design. I mean, the sound design I'm sure is great, but
Yeah.
yeah, somebody
I
pointed
think
out
game
they
game
at the
has
level that it wants to be, the sound is great. I've
I
been
think we
loving it.
should just
Absolutely loving
be
it.
happy that the game is clearly optimized to run smooth as
yeah,
fuck. Like everything transitions smooth, the way Samus moves when you
the
go to
animations
another
like
area
Ayers
and
said
stuff.
that
I'm currently at the crate boss fight, but
that shit was hard.
I'm backtracking to get more shit because I want either more missiles or more um health. But anyway, but like I went into that boss fight and I see Kratos move, and I'm legit, and I usually don't think that stuff. I'm legit thinking, damn, this bitch moves smoothly, like
Yeah.
just giant creature and stuff. It's nicely done.
Yeah, that's that was a tough fight. I got past it, but yeah, the animations are super high quality. You know,
Yeah.
I don't care about some longer loading times where it's choppy during the loading times. When the actual game is so smooth, when you're moving around, it's just fluid, man. It's like it doesn't even feel like there's different animations. It just feels like everything blends together.
You forget you don't. It's like what I love about it is that you don't have to necessarily think or worry about her not reaching somewhere or not grabbing a ledge
hmm
or not sliding when you need her to
It's
slide
like,
or anything like
yeah,
that. It's so seamless. That's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah,
just I'm still going with this through my head and thinking, is she the best 2D character I've ever controlled? Especially
it's right
later
up
on,
there.
once you get everything, I'm flying through this map like it's nobody's business. I'm just like I'm not even thinking about it, just like I'm just like, yo, let's
Yeah,
go. It's
that's
just
true.
so
And
good.
TriLink, I've heard some reports of people having to do a full restart of their Switch, and it if you're having like choppy in gameplay, then I don't know if you're in an area further than me, but I haven't seen anything. I know the Digital Foundry, you know, it's like it drops maybe to 59 or something. Like it's really solid, but I did hear someone say that you have to pick up your Switch, hold down the power button, and actually do a full shutdown,
Oh,
and that
I heard something as well. Um, there's a few things ideas going around that if something downloading in the background, I think I heard that might affect it, but that's really brand new, and I don't know how much credit that
yeah, you
has.
might
Like,
want to check something, because I have not noticed anything choppy personally. Not it's like I said, it's not like a flawless locked 60, but it is
no,
pretty damn close.
for the most part, you know you're loving it. You're whizzing by, and it's just
And I would
smooth
say
stuff.
I would be right there with you. I think Ori and the Will of the Wisps for me is like, I haven't got all Samus's abilities, but
Yeah.
that I feel I like that slightly more than Hollow Knight because of the more fluidity of Ori, and I think Metroid's closer to
Well,
Ori with
I
that.
mean, like I said, those are the three, goats, aren't they?
yeah.
You got Ori, Hollow Knight, and you can throw Dread into the mix now. And when you think about each of those characters, at the end of the day, the knight the way he was designed, he's meant to look like almost like an ant compared to all the bigger bugs next to him. So he is slower essentially and
Mm-hmm.
smaller, but close range, he's quite nimble. Whereas Ori is more floaty, long jumpy, gliding
And
and
it's
stuff like that.
momentum.
Whereas,
It's
yeah,
momentum based, more animations, just kind
yeah.
of.
Whereas Samus is just all balls out.
And
I'm
yeah, there's
fastest.
no.
Try to catch me. That's why the enemies
Samus
can't even
is
catch
like
her.
obstacle course
She is
design.
obstacle
And there's
course.
no
Yeah,
walk.
nothing good
It's
about it.
just the analog stick is
Do you know
basically a
what?
D-pad.
That's one little complaint I have. I want to walk in the game. I don't know why. Some certain areas because I've been enjoying um just the areas and the exploration and stuff like that, and capturing videos and stuff like that. There's some areas I'm just like, man, I just want to walk through here. You got these
Mm-hmm.
waterfalls cascading and stuff like this,
Well,
or
you can
or
put
when you're
on
out
your
near the train.
put on your
Yeah,
cloak and walk, but you can't get
yeah,
very
that's right.
far.
Yeah, yeah.
But
And
yeah, I
one thing
agree.
I wanted to tell you, Juice, is I don't know if you know it yet or not. If you want to take HUDless screenshots, if you leave Samus idle for a while, I think it takes about 30 seconds for her to go idle. She gets into this badass stance, and then the HUD disappears, and you get a HUDless screenshot. Then, if you want to take some HUDless screenshots, so just stand still for a while.
Okay.
And that's all I've been doing, just trying to take as many HUDless screenshots as possible.
Yeah, I actually aim, and it at least takes away the map to take some screenshots. You just aim. But let's see. So last night I played some more. Got in this really cool area with this storm outside and ride the train. And there was like a you know aquatic looking area for a small portion, and I'm like, this looks amazing. Like please
It's
be a
just
whole
this,
level like
yeah.
that. Like this
Oh
looks
man,
so
yeah.
good.
There's like other areas like to that, and I was just like, just pump it into my veins even more. Just keep on going.
It's like the difference between Nintendo's other 2D games, pretty much, that they put out to Dread. It's I know they're
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, our pinnacle was Donkey Kong Country Tropical
Tropical
Freeze,
Freeze.
right?
That's like the last great
That was our
2D.
pinnacle 2.5D Nintendo game. Yeah, that was it. And now we got Dread, and I'm like, yo, yo, DK, I'm
And
sorry.
this is
No, man.
it's a positive because the game looks great and it's so fluid and the animations. But it does kind of confirm for me my statement about Metroid Prime 4 because yeah, this game's full 3D, but it's a 2D plane. You're not moving a camera and stuff, but all the character models and stuff are 3D.
Have you seen? I mean, I know this is Mercury Steam, but I just like, man, I'd love this in 3D
Yeah.
because some of those backgrounds, the how deep it goes. You got these paths just going up with machines, on like conveyor
Mhm.
belts and stuff. I'm like, man, this is fucking
But I
so
am
good, so much
I
detail.
I think the fact that Dread to run at 60 as a 2D game has to be 900p, which actually has some resolution drops, nothing major. But that tells me I know Retro is a more qualified. I just don't see them hitting 60 with Metroid Prime 4 and actually pushing
Listen,
visuals. I
listen.
just
Do you know what? Do you know what? That's my next video. I'm gonna prove to you, Juice. I'm gonna prove to you why Metro Prime 4 will look great on a Nintendo Switch, right? And it'll run at 60 frames a second.
I
I'm
mean
gonna prove it
the
to you.
easiest way to do it is keep
Just based off the Upper
All
Prime
these
games. I'll prove
promises, man. All these clogged video promises and shit.
they're gonna have to basically
it.
take the
I was
Metroid
laughing
Prime
at it.
engine, run it at
Yeah.
1080 at 60, and basically everything else it'll just look like the Dolphin emulator of Prime 4. Like or Prime 3. I don't think they're gonna be able to have the wow factor of Dread in a 3D game at 60. I hope to be wrong. I don't think they
Have
can
you
do
been
it.
wowed by? I mean, have you graphically been wowed by Dread? Is it pleasing?
It's I mean, it's if you look close, it's got their typical Nintendo has very clever ways. Sometimes when it zooms out, it looks a little a little off, but it's a great looking game. And
I think it looks clean
I
as hell.
wouldn't want that art style in 3D though, because it has that in the cutscenes. It has that plasticky look, which is what they're going for. But it looks in 2D. It looks great. In the cutscenes, I don't love that look. It's just not. I mean, I don't hate it. I'm just saying I don't love it.
I've been in all of the cutscenes. That's some of the best
I think
cutscenes I've
they're
seen
really well
in
done.
recent memory.
I think they're really well done in the direction, the cinematography. Everything's awesome. I just don't like that plasticky, sheeny look of the characters and stuff. Like I said, I don't. I'm
You
saying
mean
I
like
don't love it. That doesn't mean I
when she
don't like it.
targets them? When she targets them and it gets like that
Just all the
outline of it?
cutscenes, yeah. Like just when you see the characters in their full 3D, the rocks and stuff, they just look like they were made out of cut out of plastic, and has that like plasticky look.
No.
That's just
Yeah,
a
it's green, man.
artistic. That's just an artistic thing.
Yeah.
That, but it works perfect in the 2D. I just don't love. Like I said, when I say I don't love, that just means it's not up here. It's here instead of up here. I'm just trying to put
I
it.
feel it works different. Like, I'm not a developer, but I feel developing like a 2.5D versus a full 3D game, it just works differently. And you can, for example, limit what the Switch can do in a 3D game based off a 2D game. Like, I agree with Gluck. I think like Prime 4 is gonna look absolutely insane. And it's gonna make you feel like, why WoW doesn't look like this, But it's just a different way of developing things. And again, like I said, I really think they focused a lot on having Samus being as agile and fast as possible, and that as well on a 2D plane, having a character being able to do all that shit is just not the same as walking in a 3D plane as a shooter, for example.
Yeah, I
I mean,
mean, we'll see.
we've seen faster motion, FPS games for years. I mean, at the end of the day, we grew up on Doom, and when like Quake 2 and then Quake 3 and Unreal Tournament came out, you were flying around those arenas like this, nobody's business. And more recently, and Juice fell in love with. I didn't mind Doom 2016. I still haven't played Eternal yet, but I know Eternal steps up the arena-based movement and stuff. I suppose it depends if you want that type of movement for Samus in first person, but the Prime games do effectively play different, vastly different to what Doom plays like. So if they can get a balance in between of decent movements and and all that stuff, then I think it'd be fine.
Yeah, I was before I played Dread, I was looking at that fluid movement and I'm like, all right, that looks amazing. And when I was playing Returnal, I'm like, man, like anybody who says they love Dread, I'm gonna be like, all right, you love Dread, you'll also love Returnal, but Returnal doesn't have that hopping over like that really fast, always moving forward. Even you can make it so that you're always running. You can switch it so that you're always running, but she doesn't automatically hop over stuff. You don't have that ability, but everything else, people when we were talking about Metroid Prime 4 and I was comparing it to Doom and Titanfall 2, hoping that they implement some of those ideas. But now that I've played Returnal, I'd almost rather have a third person Metroid
Metroid.
because it works so well.
I've always wanted a third person Metroid, and in the vein of like Jet Force Gemini or something. Playing obviously like a Metroid game and stuff, but just that third person, nice areas and.
Just do ones like a third person Metroid and then he shits on other M who legit like started trying that stuff and everything. That's why I like it, because it tries that
The
stuff.
only third person in
But
this
I
stuff
need
is that walking slow while you're talking. Shit, there's no
you have
actual
like
third
walking
person.
you have like this plane where you can like 3D like walking around and
What
that
what are
kind
you what
of
are you
shit.
talking about?
Other M. It does stuff like
Oh,
that. I'm not saying it
yeah.
is like
Do
that,
you know
but
what? A,
it
lo- a
dabbles in
lot of
that
a lot of
stuff.
people didn't like. I mean, once again, the controls weren't perfect for it. But when it went behind the shoulder, in third
It
person, you had
looked
to
good
walk
on a
like through
Wii game,
through
but you
plastic.
couldn't do
Yeah,
anything. You just
yeah. You couldn't do
walked.
anything. You just walk and stuff. But it was still cool.
I
But
don't love that though.
I think every time I've seen Returnal, I mean, to be fair, I haven't watched enough of it. But it kind of reminded me of Control wise.
Oh,
Is
it's
it
light
is it
years
completely different?
beyond light years beyond control.
Okay.
And I love Control, but it's like on another level. It's not even. I wouldn't even compare. That's what I kind of thought initially. Is, oh, that looks like. No, the dash, I guess, is the only thing that's similar. But like, you can be running left and dodging, like, it's just instant turn. You're at full speed. You know, you jump. You keep your momentum. You don't have to constantly hit run if you just
Wouldn't
jump
mind
and land.
answering flip the scores your question where he says
That's a
whatever
good
is fear
question. I think.
of it not being as good as some indie games. At the end of the day, my biggest fear for Dread, and it wasn't a fear, it was more of a want. Um, was that the atmosphere of Hollow Knight I found to be so perfect and so isolating. It made me crave a Metroid with that level of atmosphere. No, I don't think Dread has that at all. I say at all. That's a lie. I don't think it comes close to the similar type of atmosphere that Hollow Knight has. But what Dread does um, as a Metroid game still works exceptionally well for me. Um, I never had any fears about it not being as good as Ori. I knew they were fundamentally different games, the way they played and stuff. And then you have to think about what else what I might have compared it to. I can't remember the last Metroidvania I played. Indie Guacamelee.
Yeah, well,
Um,
it had the potential to be without the fast fluid movement, which, I mean, Samus Returns had that, but not nearly as to the same level. And it'd been like, basically since the Game Boy Advance, since we had one, and they were more slow. Slow. You had the run. Eventually, you would unlock the super run or whatever. I forget what it was called. Um, but it definitely, I would say, Guacamelee and like SteamWorld Dig 2, kind of had that same flow of some of the older Metroid games. A little more slow paced, a lot of backtracking. And Dread just to me is like it's on another, not quite genre, but it's on another version of that, like an offshoot. It's not true in that regard. Yeah, you can slow it down, but like I said, you can't walk. The movement speed is just one speed, and it's fast. It's faster than any of her other speeds.
yeah, I
Normal.
think I think the last closest one maybe was Fusion. I'm trying to think of
But still, I was
uh,
like, there's times where I just get up to a ledge, and this is just like, I just feel like I'm never slowing down.
yeah.
So it's a definite change, and I do want to talk about the whole reason I originally titled the podcast all about that Metroid Novania, because I feel like, to me, I feel silly talking about a Metroid game and calling it a Metroidvania, because it's a Metroid. It's the original of the genre. Like, it's just, I know most people know the genre as Metroidvania, but there was no Castlevania like this until Metroid came out. I don't even know what Castlevania first implemented the Metroid style. Get a
It was
weapon, unlock a
it
new
was it
area.
was it all started with Symphony of the Night because all the Castlevanias before it, 'cause I grew up playing those Castlevanias. I mean, Super Castlevania 4 is still my favorite Castlevania, and that was the last Castlevania, traditional Castlevania that was an action platformer. It's linear. You just go from left to right virtually, or just work your way upwards. It's an action platformer. Whereas then when Symphony of the Night came out, um, um, they essentially still retained some of that action and some of that platforming, but it then became a big map. You have to go get a move from over there. That move would then allow you to unlock a new area over here. They added RPG elements, so you'd actually, when you hit enemies, points would come off you, level up and stuff like that. So no one knows exactly. There's been tons of videos on it, exactly who came up with the term Metroidvania. Um, but it was essentially what Symphony of the Night was. It took the exploration and item upgrading of Metroid, and then partially merged it with the action platforming of Castlevania, even though the linearity of the old action platform of Castlevania is completely gone now. And that's all Castlevania has been now, pretty much. All the 2D offerings has just been like Symphony of the Night. We haven't had one since a classic one since
Yeah,
the
so
Super Nintendo.
I know T's more adamant about not using the phrase. And I get it. It's the phrase. It's one of those things like a nickname. You can't choose a nickname if everyone calls somebody by a nickname. You can't undo that. Metroidvania, you can't undo it. But I think this game reestablished, like, to me, what a lot of people maybe hadn't forgotten, or it's been so long since a quality game came out in 2D Metroid that they forgot. Like, this is basically the OG. Like, this is the GOAT of the genre because it's the originator of it. Yeah, they've taken elements from other games and implemented it. They borrowed inspiration. I wouldn't say it. Nothing really feels directly, other than the dash, which I don't have yet, feels like out of Hollow Knight, which I don't know if Hollow Knight came up with that or if that was borrowed from something. So it's like the king. It's the originator. So to me, it was just kind of a tongue-in-cheek, kind of funny thing.
Well, to be fair, there was there's there are dashes before Hollow Knight, and in Symphony of the Night there's
Did it?
there is a backwards dash and stuff like that. But it's it doesn't matter where sometimes where individual moves came from. When you're just trying to think of these genres and stuff. I called it Metroidvania for years, like everyone else did. I may have no real issue with it, but I also like the fact that when you do have a Metroid game and you try to distinguish between the elements of a Metroid game and what Castlevania used to do, or what Castlevania added, when with Symphony of the Night, it's like I would say Hollow Knight is nothing like a Castlevania game. It's nothing like a Symphony of the Night. It's a pure Metroid game. That's what I would say, because it doesn't fundamentally do anything that the original Castlevania has done, and it doesn't fundamentally do anything that's Symphony of the Night brought in, like the leveling up, like all that type of stuff. Is all that the rest of the stuff was already in Metroid.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I just see that a bit differently. And I know what people like, Metroid, let's call it Metroid, but, yeah, the original Metroid, and then Super Metroid. And after that, you had, like, for fucking 20 years of Prime and stuff. I feel if you say something is a Metroid game, it just doesn't mean anything, because Metroid at this point has been all over the place as far as being, like, team-based shooter games, the 3DS with Federation Force. I feel calling something Metroidvania isn't like a dig on Metroid. It's because both Metroid and Castlevania's franchises have been all over the place. So if you take Metroidvania, you're kind of just linking two things together, and that just is something that you can
it makes it more
specific with it.
And then at the end of the day, you have these, you had these two big names, at the time, especially when Symphony of the Night came out. You have to remember everyone was waiting for Metroid to come to the N64. And it never came. So after Super Metroid, everyone was just like, "Give me fucking Metroids on the N64," and it never came. So we got Castlevania, and then Symphony of the Night just blew up, review wise and popularity
Imagine
wise.
if Fusion would have been a 2D game on the N64. Like, I know it came out well past the N64's life cycle, but
Well, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you have to wonder, how. You have to wonder still how Castlevania became as popular as it did, because even though the PS1 had tons of 2D games, that era was so 3D. It's surprising how many 2D games still done really well. It's like the original Rayman is one of the highest selling games on the PS1. I used to sell that game. It's one of those games we used to have PlayStation ones on the wall boxes, and then we'd shrink wrap for game bundles onto the box and say, "This is a bundle, £150, you get the console and these 4 games." And I would always put Rayman 1 in those bundles. Number one, because it went to platinum. It was cheap. It was like £19.99. So we could do the bundle for cheaper to entice people in. But it was just a great fucking 2D game in an era where it was just 3D. So yeah, I do wonder how a 2D Metroid would have been accepted on the N64, given that Mario went into 3D, Zelda went into 3D, and everything else did. A part of me thinks
I mean,
it wouldn't have sold as well.
you had like Kirby and Yoshi that still stayed 2D. They had some franchises that stayed 2D.
It was 2.5.
I definitely think Metroid and 2D on the N64 could have worked, and that's probably what they would have done if they would have done something.
It's not that it could have worked. I'm just wondering how popular it would have been.
Because it's like
you know what I mean?
When Rayman 2, I think it was, came out, and I think it launched day and date on the Dreamcast or come later. I was like, oh, I honestly I couldn't tell you if that game was 2D or 3D. I don't remember. I rented it once, and I just know I was expecting something, and it wasn't what I expected. So I can't remember. Was that 3D or 2D? Rayman 2.
Oh, 2D, man.
So yeah,
when Rayman 2 came on the N64,
I think I was expecting a full 3D game, and I just remember being disappointed by Rayman 2.
I still say to that, I can't know. Gotta disagree.
And that was on Dreamcast, right?
Yeah, it came to the Dreamcast port.
I was just trying to tell you the mindset of people back then. I was expecting a 3D game, and when it was a 2D game, I just wasn't in I wasn't in that mindset to play that, and I never gave it a chance. So that's kind of what I think. That's what might have happened with a 2D Metroid game. Is people are like, why isn't this 3D? And I'm guessing they started some kind of development as a 3D on the N64. I don't know the actual development cycle of Prime, but I know it started as a third person, and I don't know if it ever started as N64 or not.
And by the way, I just wanted to say I still rate Rayman 2 as one of the best 3D platformers ever. And also it doesn't get anywhere near the credit it should get from Ubisoft from bringing a 2D game into 3D for the first time and getting so damn close to like Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie. Someone said they prefer Rayman 2 over those two games. I'd be like, okay, fine.
People were saying it was 3D. Something about, I don't remember what it was. I just know I rented it and I was like, it just wasn't what I was expecting. And
Rayman 2 was a 3D game.
Okay.
It was full 3D.
That's what it was.
I completed it on the N64 and Dreamcast. It's fucking brilliant. So good.
I should look up video of that and see if I can remember what it was. Just something.
It used Z targeting. Copied that from Zelda for the combat and stuff. And,
really? Okay.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I honestly don't think I played it more than 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It's like I rented it. Yeah. Something about it just didn't click with me, and I moved on from it. But let's see.
I was waiting for a moment to say it, but now like 12 feet mentioned it, so I guess it's a good way to segue into that because I wanted to mention it. The HD Rumble in Dread is so fucking good. I like it because I play with the Joy-Cons and the grip.
Let's try the Joy-Cons.
For example, when you're saving and that kind of stuff, and the shit goes around, Samus, it's like you feel it go around in the controller and stuff. Like there's a lot of subtleties in the different moves and attacks and that kind of stuff. That just feel differently in the Rumble. Like it's really good.
I'm not getting that at all with the Pro Controller.
Yeah, I think because of you, Juice. When you mentioned that the HD Rumble isn't quite as good in a Pro Controller, that was on my mind when I started playing Dread. I was like, no, do you know what? I'm going to go back to my Joy-Cons. I'll put them in a brackets for the moment because I need control instead of the looser one. Because I knew this thing was going to make my thumbs go crazy. But yeah, I'm so glad I did because the Rumble on the Joy-Cons is so much better.
Because it's like I'm gonna have to test it, but it's hard for me to go from the DualSense, and especially with the Pro Controller. The HD Rumble doesn't even register.
You hate the Joy-Cons anyway.
I'll have to try it just for the HD Rumble because that is just playing in like the games that when the raindrops in Returnal or Astro's Playroom. I don't think Kana uses the raindrop effect. The way that you feel these things hitting all over the controller, it's hard to go from that to anything else and be loud.
Don't expect it to be that level on Dread.
But with my Pro Controller, it's definitely shot. The HD Rumble was shot from a Starlink because every time you switch a missile or something, it used the HD Rumble, and I could feel it. It's almost like when someone's voice starts going out and they start crackling, and that's what my HD Rumble feels like with Starlink. it just used it too much and wore it out.
That's a shame.
Yeah, 12 Feet said the same thing. I just can't. Those Joy Cons, I just cannot play with those.
Yeah, I know.
In
I'm
any
never the same.
in any situation, especially with.
I think the grip is really comfortable. I have no problem
It's
with
fine.
No, what was it used to be called, the doggy grip or whatever it was,
that. Yeah.
when it first came
Yeah.
out and stuff. I played it. I used it loads, and I never found it uncomfortable at all.
Last time I was seriously playing a game and went to the Joy Cons was Mario Odyssey, and I couldn't pull off any of the advanced moves I was doing, and I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm not gonna hamstring my abilities, because my hitting the B button, my analog stick, my thumb always hits the analog stick trying to hit the B button on the Joy-Con, and
I mean, the Switch Pro controller is by far the greatest controller ever made, but like mine is like drifting like crazy. I have to go back to the Joy-Cons.
yeah, they need analog stick manufacturers are gonna have to get put on notice here. They're gonna have to figure something out, because my Xbox controller is drifting for Rocket League. Yeah, I probably have 500 hours on it in Rocket League, or maybe 400. But the old one, my old Xbox, day one Xbox One controller, I used that thing for years, and the left bumper broke. Everything else worked perfect. And this S model controller, I've had 4 different ones, and they're all trash. So I think controllers are getting cheaper, like parts put in them. Prices are going up. It's kind of shitty. I will say, so far, I'm lucky. I haven't had any issues with the DualSense other than, the battery.
Well, to be fair, since I've been touch bloody wood, since I bought replacement analog sticks for my Joy-Cons, I bought those for like, £4.99, so just like $6 or whatever. You got like a pack of 2, and I replaced those myself. I've had no issues whatsoever. They've been absolutely great. And then
That's
I've also
good.
heard about that fix where if it does start drifting, put a bit of cardboard or paper, whatever, underneath it, to add the pressure to it. So, yeah, I think since I've changed them, I don't have that worry about playing my Switch anymore with the Joy-Cons, which plagued me for years, essentially. Really, when you think about it.
Yeah, I am more. It's such a hot topic that when I'm playing Returnal, I'm actually like, damn, I keep clicking this to run. Like, I'm gonna wear out this just clicking, like the L3. It's like, so I try to limit the amount of times I run, so I actually walk more. So I'm like, I just don't want to wear this controller out. It's like that shouldn't be something on your mind, but in this day and age, you kind of have to think about it. Do I want to play? Like, if I bought a new Pro controller, it's like, and let's say we were still playing Smash all the time. I'm like, man, would I want a brand new Pro controller to be getting all that wear and tear from the hectic Smash Brothers battles? Like, I would actually probably still use the old one for that and keep a new one for like Dread, or a new, like Breath of Wild 2 or something.
But we are still playing Smash all the time.
We did play it, and we didn't talk about that.
You kicked my ass pretty good.
Oh,
Yeah.
that short clip you done.
That was
Just when you saw Juice's eyes just down below. That was finished.
When that happened, Retro was quiet. I thought you were just like, whatever. You didn't think nothing of it. I don't know if you were laughing or if you were stunned, but you didn't say anything, and everyone else is laughing.
I went, maybe the sound cut out because I went fucking crazy when that happened. Like, I was laughing. I was just laughing really hard.
Where did you get Juice's footage from?
After the fact.
I asked, so that's what's cool about Juice.
Oh, right.
I'm like, Juice, can you just like record yourself saying like a little line? And I give no context, nothing whatsoever. He instantly sent me that shit, and like overnight I put that shit together.
I thought you were scouring like videos or something of like previous videos he did. I was thinking, I'm sure he's never said this. I'm not online. There's no way.
And I didn't know. I assumed that's what he was using it for. But I also was it you I killed or Terrell? Oh, it was Terrell with the Zelda with the kick, and he thought
Must have been Terrell.
Yeah, because he thought he was gonna counter me. And I just jumped up with Zelda Palutena or Zelda and sent him the other way, and I couldn't remember who that was. I was like, I know one of the clips that's going to be for the, but I just thought you were going to jump off your little rocket with Villager. I didn't know you just
I
could.
wondered. I tried. I think the second you counted it, I couldn't anymore. I'm not sure. It
And it was
was
just like,
just
I didn't know it was
brutal.
going to blow up and kill you. You know, it was just like, I'm just
It
going to.
was so strong.
That's twice I've had epic things with Palutena. The other one was during Terrell's stream, and somebody had Kirby's the Smash Ball, and I couldn't quite remember what
Oh, the duck
Kirby's
thing.
Smash, and I tried to do the perfect dodge where you block and
Yeah.
hit down, and you sidestep, but I didn't hit block and I just hit down and I ducked as like as the sword was swiping, I ducked like perfectly, and it was probably one of the best moments. Terrell, I think, clipped that, and both times with Palutena. So those are my two most
Actually,
memorable.
I recorded like Clocked It and Mine's air battle as well from last weekend when we just like we were both still alive, the only ones left,
Oh yeah.
and then we just attacked and it went kind of like this, and we just both died. So good.
I think I won that one though, didn't I? Because we both
Yeah,
went
because
down.
I died a little bit.
Yeah.
I think
Yes,
you
Tried
had
to
a
down
slightly
smash
higher.
you, completely missed, and we both kept on
everything
falling.
messed.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
a special next, another special next.
It's
So
just
good.
did we even talk about how Mortal Kombat X is like region locked? We couldn't even play each other from
I
Europe.
don't know
I
if we
forget that
addressed
game.
that. I think we
I don't know if we
addressed it.
talked about that. That's just a bummer, and it's stupid anyway.
Yeah,
You
it's
can't even spectate. You can have multiple
Yeah.
people in a room. You can't even spectate the battles. It's like fucking Nintendo actually did something right, even though it's not perfect. Being able to spectate with four people fighting, and how many people? Four people can spectate. It's like, how is I know Mortal Kombat X is not the newest one, and it came out before Smash came out. But I was
But
I
it's
was
new
expecting more.
enough.
I was
It's new
expecting more.
enough, yeah, that you should be able to just like, go online with all the guns. Because I mean, like, people bitched about Smash on Wii U, but that online was pretty similar already. It's not as good as what now Smash is really great Ultimate. But on Wii U, you still had it already, and I think Mortal Kombat X was after that. I mean, come on, the basic is even like if I want, like, I was training the whole fucking week to kick Robert's ass. I was looking forward to that, getting used to the new mechanics like the X-ray. Never had all that shit. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be so fucking awesome. I can't even play like versus Robert because of online region locking. And people like to bitch about America, about like Nintendo's like Brawl Online and shit.
America
Like,
mixed up with Nintendo.
yes, it's so stupid. I can't even wrap my head around it. Like, you can't play online in an online mode. Like, fuck
When's
off.
the last? I mean, we
Yeah.
don't play a ton of different online
I'm
games,
gonna say
but we played a
just to
lot.
give the chat some context, we were we're trying to get together, Juice's Loose Crew just for some regular gaming nights and stuff, and Mortal Kombat X was on PlayStation Plus at the time, so we decided just to get it, give it a go, and then it turned out then that the game is region locked, and me and Retro could play against each other, but because we're in Europe and the UK. But
Heavy
we
lag,
couldn't
by the
play
way.
with the boys in the US. So it's just we had terrible lag. We struggled with lobbies and trying to create games. It was just a harrowing experience. So we quickly logged off and then jumped on
Yeah,
Smash.
and
Hence the whole Smash story with
Flawless
crazy
Smash.
we
kills.
quickly forgot about Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
We talked about the music in part one yesterday. How it was, unfortunately, it's not bad in Dread. It's not standout. It's nothing stood out to me as like, oh my god, this music's epic. Like,
I was playing earlier, and I was in some water places, and like I said, the music
it's good, but it's not like
when you hear it and you're listening to it, then it's good, but yeah, it's not. I wouldn't consider it up there with the Metroid greats and stuff like
I
that.
No.
said I said yesterday that when you boot up the game, the Dread remix of the main theme is
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. I love that song. It's so good. But I compare it with what I said yesterday with a Darksiders 1, Darksiders 2, for example. Darksiders 2 has like what Metroid Prime 1 has, orchestrated music that fit with the levels and stuff, like we were saying yesterday, like Magmore Caverns and Adrena Drifts. It's like songs that you can have on the background, like when you're going out or whatever. but Dread has like what Darksiders 1 has, which is not really orchestrated in that way. It's background ambience,
Mm-hmm.
and just all the levels, at least in Dread, I feel just everything just sounds very, very similar. You don't all of a sudden go from like, I don't know, drums to like a flute or that kind of shit, like what they
it's just
sometimes use for
not.
ice levels.
No, it's just not as um
Diverse.
um I want to say diverse. I will say it is diverse. It's just not as pronounced. And I think it's because the game wants to be like that, because there's there's a lot of the music, if you actually listen to it, is quite creepy, and and it's got its vibe, which is what I like about it. But it's just not. I mean, you could say some of the I know we mentioned the Prime games a lot, but even if we go back to Super Metroid, which I got behind me, initially when you get down to the planet, it's just
Mm-hmm.
it's just that eerie, music stuff. But then once you kick in, it's got ding, 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 ding,
Mm-hmm.
ding,
Yeah.
ding, 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 and it gets all like upbeat and and crazy stuff, and engaging. And Dread definitely goes for a different tone, and I can understand them going for a different tone. I mean later on there's like there's cutscenes and stuff, and some of the music cues of those cutscenes, I had goosebumps. I was just like, oh, you motherfucker, this is perfect, perfect. Record button, thank you, and stuff, but it has a different vibe. But yeah, what I will say is, if you ask me to hum any of those tunes right now, maybe just because I'm not going to remember them. Maybe after a second playthrough, I might remember one or two. But it's definitely doesn't have that memorable vibe that
Yeah,
you could
you know
picking in your head.
when music's hitting, because like just the beginning of Kana, I posted that clip. That you were like noticing all the non-interactivity in the environment, even though there is more than that I highlighted in that clip. I started recording that because I was like, damn, this music's really good. And normally, like a lot of games I played recently, the music was fine. It just never nothing stood out to me. When I actually start recording because of music, like in Ghost of Tsushima, if you go to the photo mode, you can select tracks, and that music is, I could just sit there and listen to that. I mean, I would spend 10 minutes on a photo just because I didn't want to end the music. When it's good, for me, it stands out, and just being adequate. Like as much as I love Immortals, the music's fine, but it's not like oh my god, that music's amazing. Like it's good, but it just fades into the background. Whereas when it's really good, that's when you notice it. That's how I always feel.
And
And
it doesn't, it's just I'm gonna keep on bringing up Hollow Knight, which I shouldn't.
Of
But
course you
even
should,
for
always.
even yeah, but even for Hollow Knight, even its darkest tones, and its darkest moods, the music in there is very memorable. I sometimes I'll message Retro, because I know he's like a super Hollow Knight fan like me, and I say on YouTube you can go on there and type like an hour long
Yeah.
extended
mm-hmm.
version of some of the Hollow Knight tracks, and I legit listen to that as background music when I'm working and stuff. I'm just like, man, this is fucking perfect. Maybe I'll do the same for Dread. Maybe some of those atmospheric tunes will work really well, and then they'll sink into my head.
Well,
But just now as I'm playing it, they're there, they're good, but they're not you know
yeah, but you're playing
flowing in.
Phendrana Drifts or whatever, Metroid Prime. You weren't. It didn't take you multiple playthroughs to start notice
Yeah,
that music. It
no,
was
I
like
agree. I
instant.
agree.
Like 12
Yeah, I
feet
agree.
said. One Metroid Prime 1 through 3 does definitely a highlight. I mean, just the freaking opening in Prime 1 is like, holy shit, this is a Nintendo game? Like, holy crap! Like this is, I haven't felt this since like Star Fox's intro, where I was like, damn, like that shit's just on another level. So maybe that's one way Metroid Prime 4 could really outshine Dread for sure. I think is
That's
I, I,
why
I don't I don't even I don't
that's
even
why I
go
was
on.
just gonna say that's why I need Prime 4 to be first person. I don't want it to be third person. I feel the Prime series for me is a lot about atmospheric immersion, and I need that first person look. I want that because that's the shit that blew me away in Prime 1. I need that fog, the condensation on the
Mm-hmm.
visor and shit, you know, and the music around you, just walking
Are
slowly and creeping
are
up.
you a bigger Prime um side of Metroid than you are the 2D side? Do you prefer the Prime series over the 2D
That's
ones?
so hard to say because 2D like side scroll is some of my favorite games and shit, but Prime 1 is literally one of the top three greatest games ever made. So if you ask me like what kind of new Metroid would you want, I'm instantly gonna go to Prime 1. I want
Yeah,
that shit. But like, and I'm not gonna harp on it, but like even Prime 2 and 3 did not make me feel what Prime 1 made me feel because Prime 1 was a lot more nature based and slow. Like you said, you literally start like alone in space. You're like, what's going on? You know, everybody's dead around you. Know what's going on. You go to the planet, it's all abandoned and shit. And just 2 and 3 don't even have that vibe. So
Yeah,
I mean,
I would agree because you know, they're not gonna remake Prime One when they're on the third game. They're just continuing the story and stuff. And you pick up. I don't know how quickly you're on the Federation ship and all that. You know, it's a completely different feel to the atmosphere and stuff. And I honestly, after Prime Four, you know, this is gonna sound crazy, but you know, I'm talking, you know, late next gen or something. Do like uh just a 3D. I know Metroid Prime's kind of like a 3D Super Metroid, but you know, just kind of go back to the roots, make a 3D third person or first person, and just kind of go. I don't want to say remake or anything, but kind of take it on a. They're almost going to have to reboot it if they said that Dread's going to end the storyline in Prime Four. I mean, who knows what storyline that will take, where that will take us, but
well,
you know.
that takes me into that reminds me actually because well, I was gonna I know we talked about how badass Samus is in this one, and I remember talking before about narratively, I probably consider Nintendo's most important character, narrative wise. I'm just wondering how everyone's feeling, just where you've gotten to so far. Are you feeling compelled by her as a character moving through this world and getting to each cutscene and each boss and how she's reacting and acting, and then obviously the chats with Adam and stuff like that. Are you finding Samus now? You might have found it narratively compelling before, but are you finding it now even more of an engaging, compelling character?
I'm actually the opposite. I'm not even thinking about Samus in this one. Other than the times I'm
Yeah.
like, that's a pretty epic cutscene. She pulled off some really cool stuff. Almost too flashy, I guess, for my. You know, I have like a threshold of like over the top. It hasn't crossed it, but I would say some of the finishing
Oh
moves are.
man, don't bring a Metal Gear Twin
I was
Snakes
just
I'm
gonna
now.
say,
just. I
Don't
wasn't
yeah,
don't
going
do
to.
his meter is like Super Mario 1 and like Metal Gear.
I'm just telling you, like for me, cutscene action scenes. I've never been a fan of like the style completely over substance, and I just say Metroid Dread. Some of the cutscenes so far have gotten closer to that line than I expected. As far as like,
She's so badass.
it's
It's
like
like,
it's
you know what I
cool.
She's
like?
in
You know
a
what I like?
super
I
suit.
know, but what I'm
It's
saying is it's done for the audience. She wouldn't do that just to kill the thing. It's just done for us.
but the
And
thing
I
is
see
though,
through that
because
in
of
movies and games. I see to me I don't need the character to do something just for the audience to appreciate it. You know, I'm just telling you, I have this line. It hasn't crossed it or anything, but it's like one of those pet peeves of mine. I just never
Why
could
wouldn't
accept
you
that.
want her to do cool things?
that's what I was gonna say.
That's why we
Because for
love
me it doesn't
characters.
make sense.
That's why we love superheroes. This
It
I'm a
doesn't.
sucker
because they
for
do
cool
cool
poses
things.
and shit. You
Yeah.
want cool poses and badass shit, and
Yeah.
like this is it's like what Cluck had said. This is the greatest, most epic Samus was ever gotten, based just on like one or two poses she does. And I like it how, especially compared to the older games, they made her a lot more feminine. I feel the suit
Yeah.
has a lot more of a feminine shape, and that just adds so much to those poses that she's doing.
Yeah,
It's so
Trizzy
cool, man.
doesn't get it. I don't. I'm not saying that she can't pull off that stuff. Like her suit doesn't give her these abilities, and they're not superheroes. I'm just saying, narratively, it makes no sense for these characters, and it doesn't. I'm talking about movies, video games, to do this stuff. If no one was watching, they wouldn't do that stuff. So it just always stands out to me as the people creating it. Sometimes it just feels like they're trying too hard to look cool, and that's what that line I'm talking. For me personally, this is all personal interest or personal taste. Some people might like that ridiculous, over the top stuff. I don't. It just gets to a point where
Nothing
I'm like,
ridiculous and over the top about it. She fucking stands there
see?
and just says, get up, I dare you to get up. All right, man's like, all right, boom, and then he jumps toward her. She somersaults over him. It just happens to be through the
yeah,
curl of
that
his
one.
tail.
Yeah, that's fine. But I'm just saying. That's what I'm saying. It's
I
getting close. It's getting closer to the line than I expected.
I
And
feel that because I understand what you're saying, like for the audience, I do not feel that Samus does anything just to look cool. I feel she just looks cool. It's like Clock that said, it's like she's basically, for example, in the very first boss fight, she's walking around and the creature moves around and she just stops, and she looks at it. It's like Clock that says, like, what, you're still alive and shit. She's just in a cool pose because she's in a cool pose. It's not like she's like doing like Power
yeah,
Ranger
and
shit or
the
whatever.
thing is, before cutscenes existed, this is the type of stuff I would do in Metroid, 2, and I started on Metro 2, and especially Super Metroid. When you would play out your own cutscenes. So the first thing you do when the dead bodies are on the floor, I'd always run up, kneel down, and then point my gun downwards as if I'm looking down at those dead
Mm-hmm.
bodies into my own cutscene. But then if I killed Kraid and stuff like that, he's going melted into the lava. I just stand there with my gun up, just saying, "Yeah, go on," just put my gun down. You just do stuff. So she becomes you make her the badass, but then people also using their imaginations in those cutscenes to say, "Not that badass Samus that you always controlled and you always saw in your mind. This is her now in HD looking like you always imagined her to be, except even better." I just
Except even more curvaceous, like Retro pointed out. I did notice that she definitely looks more feminine.
she
I
looks
will
good.
say,
She's one of my favorite designs now.
I'll give an
Yeah.
example of in story, like when writing. It's not the visual. It's not an action. But it would be the story equivalent to what I'm talking about. So you're watching a movie, and let's say there's it's a mystery or something, and it's like, and they show this person doing something with no one around that they're only doing to trick the audience, and there's no way that person would just do that with no one watching them, because they reveal at the end that they're the guilty party. So them acting this one way in this one scene just to fool the audience, to take that person off your list of potential, and it's just a cheap trick because they don't have the writing skill to actually make you wonder. They just have to, oh, that person's not it, because they just showed that scene where there's no one else around and he or she acted this way. And that bugs me so much. It's my least favorite thing in all of movies and TV shows with writing, is when a character does something just to try to
I
trick the
get that.
audience. And I feel
I do get
when
that.
an action scene goes too far, it's just the people making it trying to have that character look cool for reasons that, just like I said, it's one of those. It's a very personal thing, and it would be like, I don't know,
Do you feel like that's happening in Dread to you right
just
now?
I said it's climbing up the
It's borderline.
towards my line where I'm like, all right, that's just silly.
I want more of it, man.
Yeah.
So,
Even more of it. It's like what Clock that said. Like in the past, we would like make our own cutscenes because I like.
and
Was it
people,
was
again,
you?
Mr.
I
True
think it was
doesn't
Clock that
understand what
when
I'm saying.
the
Hold on. Mr. True does. I'm not saying the character can't do that stuff, like the flips and jumps. I'm just saying some of the cinematography and the action is just like the creator who's making that cutscene just trying to make that character look cool, like with a pose or like jumping through, like that just doesn't. You just wouldn't do that unless you're trying to make something look cool. And when I see that trying to look cool, when I'm thinking, oh man, they were just really trying.
Samus Aran would do that.
When they're
She
but the
has
thing
done
yeah.
you
that.
do it in the battle already though. You have to like go against the wall and somersault over it and that kind
Yeah,
of
I'm
stuff.
just I'm not saying
But
it
it's
crossed
like what
it.
I was saying. Because I think Clockton made a video about it, like weird ass things you do in video games and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like I still do that. So for example, a very dumb example. like in Animal Crossing, I'm walking around and you're talking to a villager and they say something really dumb and they walk away and like I like move my character like left and right, like in my head I'm like, what did you just say? Like you're just acting with the character sometimes.
Yeah, that's that's completely different. Must not watch. I can't stand like the closest thing I can think of, it's not anime, was the Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. When it's just, that's to me, that's just ridiculous. That's a whole separate topic. I don't like, again, people don't understand what I'm talking about. I guess I'm not doing a very good job explaining.
Yeah,
everybody's looking at it the wrong way.
It's a hard one to explain. But then I don't want to jump into the Advent Children, but I was like, considering the world of Final Fantasy VII and the things they battle and the magic that they do, if they were going to be put into anime form, they would have to be this superhuman in order to kill these fucking creatures, and wield these swords that are that are 12 foot long.
Yeah. Well, the Advent Children was just like, it's just, everybody is so super powered and no one can hurt anybody. It's just pointless. That to me is when it bugs me. Like Final Fantasy VII, you have these 45-minute battles in the remake, and then it ends and it's just like, oh, you beat me this time. I'm like, I destroyed you. Like, I killed you, but then the cutscene
that's RPG.
And that shit just annoys me. It's like, why did I even fight this battle? And I'm not looking for realism. I'm just looking for, it's a creative, like, don't try so hard sometimes. And I'm not talking about Metroid here because it hasn't done this. Like, it hasn't gone. I mean, I'm just saying it getting closer to that than I expected. I'm not saying it's. I just don't. You can tell when somebody's trying to look cool. When someone's trying, it's like someone trying to be funny, like trying to make something funny that's not funny. A lot of stuff. We've been live for an hour and 11 minutes. I posted yesterday when we were starting. When something's funny, it's funny. You don't have to try to make it funny. If you have to explain a joke, then it's not a good joke. Like, unless one person might get it. I'm not talking about the character being able to do stuff that not being. I'm just talking about the person making the cinematic. Sometimes I can just see through, and I'm like, oh, I can see the person. Oh, this is gonna look really cool, instead of it just being natural. That's what I'm kind of talking about, and I'm not talking about it for Dread specifically. I'm thinking of all the other 20-something years of cinematics and movies and games. I'm kind of all lumping it together. That's an example
of that is where an example of that, and that's the only one I would agree with, because I want my shit to be cool and flashy. I don't care, but like the one example of that, I guess, which I would agree with, is like Mortal Kombat. When you break somebody's neck and rip out their heart in the middle of a game, and then just get up and you continue fighting, because it's clearly done for us to see the gory shit. But it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever that it's in the game.
It's stupid.
Unless you do a fatality at the end of the battle.
Yeah, when they have the X-rays and they crush their spine. Yeah. It's like, why show that if it doesn't have any impact? So that, to me, is a good example, Retro. I'm glad you brought that up.
The worst recent game to do that whole anime trope cutscene thing was Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And, you'd have, stuff like when Pyro and Rex first meet up with... oh god, what's her name? Your favorite character with a hat, and she's
Pandora or something like that. Oh, with the hat. Morag.
Morag, thank you. And you first fight Morag, she's like, oh my god, she's the best soldier. The best blade wielder. In the Empire, we got no chance against her. So you fuck it up for the whole fight. And then the cutscene happens, and you're just like, "Oh my god, we can't beat her!"
Yeah,
like it happens so much throughout the whole game. I'm just like, "Fuck, is this stupid?"
That shit annoys me.
That's when it's too obvious, and that's when it's too.
I would say, first of all, Tri-Link. I don't know if you just don't want to like the. You can't get soft locked in Dread. There's no way. The game's. This isn't Mario Maker 2.
I haven't heard anyone.
This isn't Mario Maker 2. You just.
I thought I was soft locked.
You got to play it more. I don't know if you're just not. I mean, you're saying it's choppy now. You're soft. You just. I don't know. Maybe you're not in the right mindset. You can't get soft locked. But getting back to what you were just talking about. Damn, I had a really good example of the movie Equilibrium. Anybody see that with Christian Bale?
It's so good, man. Yeah.
If you watch that that is them trying really hard to look cool like the Matrix. It came out after the Matrix. They were trying really hard to like one up the Matrix. And it's, to me, it's closer to the Resident Evil franchise, the movie franchise, than it is the Matrix. I love the movie, but
Oh,
they do a lot of stuff for no reason, and they do the same shit in the Resident Evil movies with Alice. Like,
Oh wait, there. What are we talking about? What's it called? It's called. It's
the
not
gun
Gunfu. What is it?
katas. The gun
What's
katas. It's so cool.
what's it called? Gun what?
They call it gun katas.
That's right.
I don't know what that
I,
is.
I can't remember. But the whole point is that they can effectively know where an enemy is going to shoot from, based off the movements and positioning of their body and where they're positioned, so they can effectively kill you, no matter what position you're
Yeah.
in or what position, because they know how realistically where you're going to move. If you're standing this way, they know you can already pull your gun like that way, so they're already moving, going there, and
It's
just
like the
taking
hand-to-hand
it.
combat with the
Yeah,
pistols.
it's so good.
So good. It's
Yeah,
so good.
I like the movie, but I'm saying that was them trying to be the Matrix, not. But the Matrix already just happened. You know, you can't.
Look underneath that film, and it's a really good story. It's
It
a really
is.
good film.
Try like the one thing about soft lock. Your soft lock, you just mean you're stuck, right? Like you got yourself, like you're stuck. You don't know where to go, because if you think you're like can't go any further, there's there's a wall to
Yeah,
shoot.
all I was saying with some of the Emmys is that like when you get to the early ones, their areas are much smaller. When you get to the ones later on, the areas are much bigger, and working how to lure it, where you need to go and stuff like that, gets much more difficult and much harder. So you'll find yourself um getting lost and getting confused and thinking, I've been this way, I've been that way. There's no way to get past this dude. It's there are some
Yeah.
difficult moments in the game, but you gotta stick with it. You'll die
If
a
you
few
think
times, and
if you think you're in a spot you're not supposed to be and you can't go back, then there's a block somewhere to shoot. The same thing
just
happened to
look at
me
that map.
in Ori and the Will of the Wisps. There's a spot where you're underwater and you make it through this tough spot. You come out and you're like you're shot out into another pool of water and there's only one little spot to go. And I'm like, there's a vine here. I can't get past it. Like there's a wall that needs to be blown up. I can't swim. I don't have an ability to do anything. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I went back to like a 45-minute before save spot. I thought I was stuck. I didn't know underwater you can still do the little hold the LB to redirect a projectile. They shoot this purple stuff at you, and I just had to redirect it and shoot it at the wall and take out the wall. So I waited till I had nowhere else to go. I went back to an older save file. I went a totally different direction, and I ended up at that same exact spot. I'm like, I don't have an ability. I thought I was missing an ability. I was like, oh, I can redirect underwater. Like I thought that was only in the air, like out of the water. So it was just something I didn't know. So I have a feeling.
What I will say as well is, even with some items that require certain moves later on, or even, some of the bosses, they have designed this game almost like, not like, where like we design a Mario Maker level, and you need to be perfect, man, in order to get through that end, for that specific route and stuff. And sometimes you think this is not possible, or that the person who played this has only done it once and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's some stuff in this game where you just think there's no way I can get from here to there in the time that I need to in order to get that item. There's got to be some other way to get it. But no, there's a really clever and skillful way in order for you to get that item, and you just got to practice and practice and practice. I was on one just now, and it took me about 11, 12 attempts. And I recorded it. I was going to upload it. I thought, no, that's a spoiler, because I want people to work that out for themselves, because that was part of the joy of working out how to get some of the items. So
That's one thing I still wanted to say about the design of the game. I feel, because we were talking about the quality earlier, I feel the level design is so perfect.
I'm glad you brought
And
that up.
a great example is when you have the Emmys. Like, and you first, like, let's say you meet the first enemy, and like you're like, holy shit, you can perfectly, without standing still, try to avoid it, just, but then comes the second phase where you're supposed to kill it, and the level is designed both that you can get away, but at the same time that you have to figure out where to lure it to kill it, because you can't just shoot it. You have to like
Mm-hmm.
charge for a really fucking long time. So
Yeah.
the level is so designed that you can't just instantly kill it whenever you want. Like it becomes a game. Try and hunt it down, and I love that.
Perfect. Yeah, the way you said that is perfect.
Yeah, the
It's
level
exactly
design
like
just in
it's
general.
cat and mouse, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
Just
it's,
the structure of the the rooms and the layout. The map, gets a little clustered, but it's a well laid out game, and trust me, like I bet you they spent more time just with level design and making
yeah.
sure you weren't going to get stuck than they
Mhm.
did on any other aspect of the game. I would be interested to hear if
I
they.
think yeah, it was second after that the AI of the Emmy, which I think is
Mm-hmm.
I
See,
think
he
is
just
staggering.
figured it out. See, it's like you think you're stuck. That's the nature of the genre.
That's Metroid for you. That's
That's the
Metroid for you.
Metroidvania. Is one of the things I remember. Was it Will o' the Wisp or the first Ori? There was a 45 to an hour minute or hour long where I didn't know where to go next. I think it was Will o' the Wisp because there was that dark area, and I was like, oh, I don't have, I can't survive down here. I keep dying. Well, I had to shoot the little glow bug, whatever they're called, and follow that. And it took me finally. I took it to a place where I got the ability to. I don't know if you light up the area or you could survive in the darkness. I forget exactly what the item was. And I was like, I had given up on that area too. And I'm like, it's just that's the nature of the genre. It's gonna happen. You're gonna get lost.
I mean, and progression does come easier at the end of the day. Like with all these games, you got to reestablish yourself, work out how the world works, and and do it that way. It's just like with Breath of the Wild or anything. Like you venture out and start learning how the world works. Things start clicking. You just get better and better and better. But luckily with this game, the challenge, stays with you, and remains at that level with you, and it's never too much, but it's just right. It's
Yeah, that would be that's probably my biggest praise of Returnal was I was at a point of giving up. I was like, man, this game's too hard. And I luckily for me, I was happy I didn't. I just got better at the game and I figured stuff out. I looked up a few like tips, you know.
you're gonna quit at one point,
I was
weren't
gonna
you?
quit,
Oh
but
well, like,
I just like I'll just say like I've been waiting to get this item again. I'm gonna record a little video because it's basically if you get this item, here's how to use it, and that's when you make your long run. It's called resin shield, and when your health's full, all the health drop turn into resin, and you need 3 resin increases your health bar. But you get what's called the resin shield, and you pick up a resin, and you can take a hit, and it won't hurt you. Your shield would go away. So what I figured out was, all right, instead of collecting, I got 1 resin, I have the shield. Don't go get any more health until I take a hit. So what I would do is I'd enter a room. I know I told this story. I don't know if I told it on air or not, or if I told it to I was talking to Robert or somebody. Is I would I used to run in and just grab all the health real quick, try to increase my health bar as quickly as possible because there's a lot of rooms where you'll get locked in with tough enemies and there's health littered everywhere. So what I would do is I have the shield. I take a hit and I'd quickly run to the next, pick it up. I moved the item pickup to the right R1 so I didn't have to hit triangle. And I pick it up and then get my shield back. Take another hit, and some of these hits would take a quarter of my health, and then just I did all that, cleared out the room. I'm like, holy shit, like that was easy. I didn't even take any damage, so I have full health, and I've just got past this area I could never get past, and I just continued. I went through the 5th and 6th biome, beat the boss using that strategy. And it's something I just learned. I just figured it out and did it, and got better at the game at the same time, and that's like the biggest reward. And I'm hoping Metroid's been
I
very
think
challenging so far.
yeah, I think sometimes you do you get the impression, especially if you float around the Twitter streets and stuff, you get the impression that people like more casual playthroughs, where
Mm-hmm.
maybe once or twice you die, but you can just happily make your way through it. That's what Uncharted games are like for the most
Oh
part,
yeah.
stuff like that. There, you could take bullets like there's no tomorrow, duck down 5 seconds, and you're better, and you just keep on going. Or if you die, in a cutscene, the cutscene started again. You just carry on. Um, but what I've died a lot in this game.
Oh, me
I
too.
have died a lot. I died a lot in this game. Um, but it's never an issue because you know why you died, you know how you died, and you go back and try again. I've just seen a lot of people I think hit a wall so quickly with difficulty. Maybe just not with this game, but with a lot of games. I mean, some games can be too crazy hard, but just I don't think Metroid is crazy hard. It's
It's
just
what
it's just it's just a good challenge. But
and
when you
what
first get
happens
to
is you get in a new area and enemies are harder. You can't use your same tactic. Like you
yeah,
can't cheese through it. And I keep bringing up Returnal, but that happened too. I'm like, oh no, was it Returnal or Ghost of Tsushima? It was Ghost of Tsushima. Like I had a group of enemies. I could take them out. I had my abilities. I was just using basically the same routine, and working through them like nothing. Well, you get to the next chapter, and now you're facing Ronin, and not just random bandits and stuff. Now you're facing trained Ronin, who are they're basically samurai, but they're not part of a clan, or they did something to get dishonored. And now I'm dying constantly again, like in the beginning of the game. I was like, oh shit, my cheese techniques, that I had gotten just basically in a rhythm with, they're not working anymore. I had to completely change my strategy,
yeah,
in the way I fought in order to beat them, and especially like the one-on-one boss fights, like completely changed how I was playing. And they did it 3 times. The initial are hard, and then you learn things, and then there's a point where it's basically level 2 enemies and then level 3 enemies, and figuring and having to adjust was just added to my enjoyment of the game. So I think a lot of people are. You're right. You're like, oh, I usually only die once or twice in like an Uncharted or something. I'm not used to this. I can't get past this boss. I'm gonna give up. Like Kraid that's a hard freaking boss. Like at one point, I'm like, damn, am I gonna be able to beat this guy? And then next thing I know, I was
yeah,
like, oh, that took half my 99, like one hit. Oh, I'll just make sure I don't get hit by that next time. And then, oh, well, now he punches me. I got to learn that for next time. It's like you learn each. It's almost like a roguelike, the boss fights, because I learn something each time, part of their routine.
yeah.
And
And even though they have routine and stuff, the game is still very organic and free flowing in how you can tackle each repetition
mm-hmm,
of the moves that they do. So you don't feel like you're essentially, even when you die and you have to fight the boss again, you don't feel like you're fighting it exactly the same way again. It's just learning and moving and placing yourself better and stuff. It's
I
you know it's
also I die a lot on purpose, especially in games like this. For example, like I posted that clip of the Emmy yesterday of like countering and shit. But like before I did that, like there's a save point right in front of it, and I literally went into that room like fucking 20 times. I died about 20 times to learn how to do that counter perfectly. That's why now I can do
mm-hmm,
it so well and shit. Because like I like trying shit out. Just like when you have like a lava room or an ice room and you're not allowed to go in there yet. I mean, I look for a save point and I see if I can run as far through that room as I can, to see if there's a power up that you
mm-hmm.
shouldn't be able to get yet. That's how I got like a quarter container, for example. I like powering through. So I often die in games like this just on purpose because I go like suiciding through a hallway.
Yeah, as soon as I see before the various suit, as soon as I was like getting that, that when you're doing damage, that noise, I just leave.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to waste a death on that. Not like it keeps track. But we had a few comments I want to get to. Do you think Dread will get DLC? I haven't finished the game, so I don't know how it concludes. If they did DLC, maybe they, I don't know. They said this is gonna be the end of that storyline. Maybe they could do like a
No spoilers, people. No
prequel or
spoilers.
something. So I guess I can't comment that. And then Air said the level design explains why the game doesn't have more zones. Is that something people were complaining about? They were clearly making a razor sharp level design game. I don't I don't know if that's something people were like, oh, this doesn't have very many zones. I don't know how many they are. I'm only like two and a
Although
half,
I
three
know how
hours.
many they are, and map size wise, some of those zones absolutely dwarf um, what we've had before.
Yeah.
In size. So they're pretty big. They're pretty substantial to the point where if I'm on one side where I'm like, oh shit, I need to get all the way to the other end. Yeah, but it's still a joy. It's still a joy running through because you're just so athletic and awesome. It just feels great just to power through
So
the level and get there.
let me ask you guys this. I mean, I I don't love like old game like constantly seeing, oh, this old game's coming, this old game's coming, to a system. But I know they already remade it once. But tell me you want like a Metroid Zero mission just redone in the Dread, like art style and visual style. Like with, they'd have to tweak it. They can't just one for one it because I still want to be able to move like
I
that.
don't. I to tell you the truth, I
But
don't know. I'm so happy we got a brand new game. Um, and I know we still love some remakes, and you saw me when Link's Awakening flashed up. And that was a dream come fucking true. It's like one of my favorite Zelda games, nostalgic games ever. So it was a dream come fucking true. And as much as I love Super Metroid, um, I I don't know if I don't know if I want or need a remake of it. Like I said, you mentioned earlier, Prime One is in some respects a remake of Super Metroid.
yeah,
Um, and now we got Dread. I'm just like, I don't need it.
that's true. I mean I
I don't
agree,
need it.
but at the same time, I I mean I played the original Metroid for the first, all the way through for the first time. I used the suspend thing on the virtual console. It's the only way I got through it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I started Zero Mission. I'm like, you know what? I don't love every change they've made in that game. Really, I just wouldn't mind just a more pure original Metroid game with a map and safe stations and nothing else. I know
But is
somebody
it? I
created that.
mean, what you gotta ask yourself with remakes is, how in love are you with that original world to want to see it remade, or is it the original? Is it the original gameplay and stuff? Because seeing Link's Awakening come from the Game Boy, you gotta remember that.
Yeah.
From the Game Boy to not just into top-down 3D, but such a unique and beautiful art style that just suited the game perfectly for me, absolutely perfectly. I think if I ever wanted a remake, I don't think I could have imagined it better than this. I
Yeah, that's
really
it.
could have just art style wise, it's gorgeous. Whereas if I try to think of what I'd want from a Super Metroid remake, I just because
Well, here,
I love Super Metroid. It is one of my favorite games ever. Um, but what they've done with a just a great with the great sequels with Fusion, I loved Fusion. I thought Fusion was great. A lot of people are so on it. Um, and what we got with Dread now, I
I was
just like
just thinking instead
give
of
us another new
them
well,
game.
waiting
here's how
for.
I see it though, because I'm the guy who loves remakes. The older the game and the newer the remake, I love that kind of shit. But I love it when you have like the original Bill and Commando, you have it completely remade. Like what they did with DuckTales, what they did with Link's Awakening. You take something that is fucking 2 pixels and you make it into this glorious diorama art style. But I wouldn't mind a Fusion remake. Like for sure I would take that, or like the Zero Mission, like I said. But I do not like it when you have a remake and they like regurgitate the art style of a previous game. I wouldn't want them to copy paste Dread into Zero Mission, for example. If you do Zero Mission, just make it unique or different, or more detailed or less detailed or different style. I don't know, but don't give me like Dread remade. That's like if Link's Awakening would have fucking looked like Wind Waker, I would have been so goddamn mad because like
Yeah,
that style needs
it
to
works.
die at this point.
It
Just
doesn't need
like
to die. It was just that we had two trash
no,
DS
no,
games. That's right.
no. I do not think I like Phantom Hourglass and shit, but I got sick of that style. That's why I think it has to die. Like they shouldn't
See,
reuse that
I'm
style.
different.
So it's the same thing they did with new Super Mario style and shit. Like they fucking ported the game to the three goddamn systems. It's like if you at the very least just make it in a different style. Like I don't like reusing
I
styles
get
on
Well,
that.
purpose.
I think sometimes we'd like to see certain scenes recreated. So the landing, in Super Metroid where you land on a planet, it's pouring down a rain. Once again, Metro Prime, but
Yeah.
this is a an even more desolate, barren world.
See,
Um,
I want to see that I want it to look identical to Dread, but be Super Metroid. That's what I want because I want it to be the continuity. This is the same Samus. This is the same world. I mean, whether it's Super Metroid or Fusion, I would love a 1-to-1. All they do is put the new art or the new graphics engine over Super Metroid, like Bluepoint did with their two remakes, where they don't change the gameplay. The core gameplay, the code is still there, so it plays identically. So it would play like Super Metroid, have the slower, floatier pace to it, but
is that
look
because
identical to Dread.
but then is that because a part of you might be tired with how Super Metroid looks
No, I'm fine. I'm just thinking instead of waiting 3-4 years for them to come up with a brand new game,
in the meantime?
they could get out this in like a year and a half, and give people more Metroid and just that would be the main motivation. I mean, there's a lot of people who probably still haven't played some of the older games. Now they play Dread. Yeah, you can go back. You can play it on the online.
It is. I mean, essentially, I mean, it's difficult because you got. I think the only ones that haven't been remade is Super Metroid and Fusion.
I mean, I think Fusion, almost think Fusion over Super Metroid, just because. I mean, Fusion did well, but I think I don't know that was on the Game Boy Advance. I would say Super Metroid holds up better visually, especially on a TV than Fusion. But Fusion's got a unique story, and with the X Parasite, they could just do more. Like with I don't know, expand the story a little bit, maybe some voice acting instead of reading all that stuff, and I really just love when games have like really impressive lighting, and to me that just adds to any game. But with Dread, it's just so well done. It's like, man, I would love to see. And I'm not saying I would buy it.
It's getting that HD Nintendo
Yeah,
taste,
I'm
isn't
not
it?
saying I would buy it
So good.
being as a remake, but I wouldn't be mad if they chose to go that route. And that's why I was just asking, because I'm not sure that I'm not saying I want it. I'm just saying I was trying to give some reasons why they might do it, because I would hate to wait a
I mean,
long time.
don't get me wrong. I wouldn't. I certainly wouldn't turn it down. I'm just super glad that we got a brand new entry. Instead of just a remake. I'm still calling for a new top-down Zelda. I want it. I mean, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. Like I said, once again, super happy with Link's Awakening, one of my favorite Zeldas. Great remake. But hell, man, when was the last time we had a brand new top-down Zelda? On
Yeah.
the 3DS,
Link Between
and
Worlds is
Link
great.
Between Worlds was so fucking good.
I would want like a top-down one, but I'm the only person in the world who still wants a 2D one, man.
You're
And
not the only person in the world,
it
but
hurts even more because Link's Awakening has 2D sections which are fucking gorgeous.
Nah,
Like the
I don't
fishing
need a
stuff
2D
and the
Zelda
walking and
personally.
then wow, man, I need that shit in my life. It's
There's a
so
2D
good.
Pikmin you can play if you really want to play a
Man,
2D
shut the fuck up.
called Hey Pikmin. And it's not it's not Pikmin 4 either. They're still making it. It's going to come out. Anyway, let's wrap this up. I mean, we talked a lot. You know,
So
there's
we could have gotten into the whole $60 thing, but I think
yeah, I
it's
seen
so
that comment. I'm just like,
it's so stupid. It's just sometimes you don't
you
even want
know,
to even entertain stuff like that. It's
I
like,
would look at it more along the lines of how good of a fucking value Hollow Knight is. Like that's like in my mind one of the best value propositions
and
in gaming.
I would say
Period.
that's underpriced. We all said it
It's
before. It's just
underpriced. That's basically it. Like
yeah,
at $15, you're just getting an absolute steal.
it's not
And
worth $15. It's worth a hell of a lot fucking more.
that game was 60. I wouldn't have thought twice about it, to be honest. I bought Ori.
Pricing
I think Ori and the Will of
pricing
the Wisp was
doesn't.
40 or 50. So I guess there is some precedent for that style of games being cheaper. Tropical Freeze was $10 cheaper. There has been precedence for it. So I guess if you think about it in that terms, there has been examples, quite a few examples of that being the case. So I
I
could
feel
see it from that
pricing
point.
is something I hate anyway as a debate in gaming. Like what people deem a game is. We're like, oh, the Nintendo guys, you want to pay $60 for like Metroid when I can pay like $40 for this? Yeah, and I can get fucking Genshin Impact for fucking free. And it
Mm-hmm.
looks like Breath of the Wild. Like, shit doesn't mean anything anymore. Pricing. If you don't think it's worth 60, then go play your cute. I like Uncharted. I was going to say that, but then go play your quick time because like they compare the clips.
Oh, did you
Like
see
you
that?
mentioned
That
yesterday,
dude tried to
they compare
compare.
the clips of like the dread boss fight that you're fighting yourself to a cutscene of like Uncharted of God or whatever it is.
It
It's like
wasn't
come
even
the
a
fuck
fight. It
up,
was a person who didn't know what to do. They were shooting the walls. They went back, jumped, didn't grab the ledge, and that was the clip. And then
they didn't even shoot the blocks properly. They
no, and then
just
they was cut to a scene where you're doing nothing, running for something as Nathan Drake, where you barely have to do anything. I'm like, that's such a fail on so many levels. Trying to say, well,
yeah.
this is a $60 Nintendo game and this is a $60 PS3 game. I'm like, I mean, that it's such a dumb comparison. Like, I was gonna, if you're gonna, when I see these, I always try to look at it logically. If you're gonna make an example, show the cinematic from Dread, where you're grabbing the enemy. You can rapid fire the missiles. You do have some control.
Yeah.
Compare that to that cinematic scene in Uncharted, and then you can say, okay, well, here's these two games. But to show just some random person who don't know what they're doing, shooting and failing.
I mean, effectively, all they would do is just it's just an old. I mean, it just shows that the whole 2D versus 3D thing will hasn't gone away and will
No.
probably never go away. It's it was all part of the marketing from the 32-bit era.
Well, just look at this.
64-bit era, it took over.
Rocket League was a $20 game for its whole life until it went free to play. And there's people with 10,000 hours in that game playing professional, making money. There's people with 5,000 just streaming it. Yeah. So now you could show any clip of Rocket League and then show Forza Horizon 4 and then show somebody's hours. Look at, for $20, this person got 5,000 hours of entertainment versus for 60, they got 40. You could make, it's just a dumb, every game is completely different, serves a different purpose.
You paid $70 to play like 15 hours of Uncharted. I paid $40 of Animal Crossing, got 1,500 hours in that bitch.
Yeah, it's like,
there you go.
For me though, there is a individual game. I wouldn't compare one game to the next. Say, oh, this game's 100 hours. If I see a game and it's $60 and I hear it's 3 hours long, I'm not gonna buy it. For me, I'm looking at value for my time. Like, if 3 hours for $60, that's not worth it. Resident Evil 3. Oh, it's without cinematics, it's like a 4-hour game, and my first playthrough was like 5.5 hours with cutscenes. Like, that's not for me personally, I can look at the length of a game and say, I'm not willing to pay 60 to have just a 5-hour experience. Doesn't mean I won't like the game. Doesn't mean I don't want to play it. I'm just going to wait till it's cheaper. And I ended up getting Resident Evil 3 for, $15 later in the year. And to me, after playing it, I was like, it's a pretty good game. But, there's for each person, it's going to vary. Like, you might be fully willing to pay $60 for the best 2 hours of your life in a game. For me, I'd never even consider it. I don't care if it's Nintendo, Mario, Zelda. I ain't paying $60 for a 2 hour game. Period. So
I've said it before. If I had paid, 60-40 whatever for Journey and the experience that I took away from that, and that was a 2 hour game, um, I wouldn't have batted an eyelid. I was just like, that was fucking on the next level to me. It was just on the next level. But like I said, it's like retro, brought up. It's value in games and and all that stuff is each to their own. You all find your own value, perceived value in what you consider games and stuff. It's just when you see stupid comparisons,
yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's where
like
Like
that,
the
which
way
are
I, the
completely
way
out of
I,
context. And
the way I think of it in gaming is very easy. I don't consider price. If I see a trailer of a game, I'm like, I want that game. And however much it's gonna cost, that's how much it's gonna cost. And if I can spare like $60 then or not, then maybe I'll wait, like what you said, I'll wait a month, and then I'll get it then or something. But like I'm never gonna I usually don't think like, man, that game isn't worth like $15, whatever. Like games cost what they cost, and that's just how it is.
yeah, like there's no way in hell I was gonna pay $70 for a Rift Apart Ratchet and Clank. There's no way. It doesn't matter what you compare it to. Just looking at that game and hearing people talk about it, and some of it, basically it's
what talks
simplified,
about it anymore?
more simplified. They made it more simplified, more casual friendly gameplay, lots of taking the controls out of your hands, cinematics where you're not doing anything, just flash. That's one of the things we were talking about, I was trying to explain earlier. Just adding flashy stuff to like Ratchet and Clank where well, look at it, you fall through this rift and then you land on a dragon and you're flying. Now you're through this other rift. I assumed you would actually there would be moments like that where you're actually in full control. No, you just kind of move a little bit. Like it's just basically almost like a quick time event cinematic. It's just done because it looks cool. It's done to show off their technology, to show off the solid state drive. This does not serve any purpose to the person playing the game. And like girlfriend reviews, they're a good example of how to judge games like this. She said it's one of the best games to watch because it's just to the point. There's all this cool stuff on screen. You don't spend much time in any one area. There's not a lot of game stuff where you actually go out and do stuff and actually, have stuff to do. It just beginning to end, it's almost like a movie. And she's like one of the best games to watch, and that's all it is. So I'm debating what price would I pull the trigger if Black Friday comes around and Rift Apart drops to 50, 40. Do I pull the trigger? I'm hesitant to even say $40 just from what I've seen. It just doesn't look like a good enough game, but
Yeah.
I don't know that Game Pass decrease the value. Anybody who looks at Game Pass and says, "Oh, why would you buy that game when I can play this game or that game on Game Pass?" You're still paying for game. Like it doesn't, to me, that doesn't make games less valuable. It does. You still, if you want to own a game, then you still have to buy the game. If you want to just rent it, then you have Game Pass. Game Pass doesn't bypass owning a game or buying a game because you won't own it. So if you still want to own the game, then Game Pass has no effect on value for me. But I know a lot of people look at that as I know T's not here to give his take because him and I kind of butt heads on this a lot. Like Game Pass is it's a rental service. So to me, if you want to play the game, you're gonna buy it and play it. If it shows up on Game Pass a year later and you're trying to act excited, you didn't want to play it enough to buy it. So don't act excited now that you can play it on Game Pass, a service that a lot of people are paying $15 a month. That's $180 a year. So you're still paying money, so don't act like it's free. And like I said, if you like, what's a perfect example? Alien Isolation. You guys have known my take. I don't think Alien is up there as far as the movies. I don't dislike it. It just doesn't have any special place in my heart. So when I seen Alien Isolation,
Well, the first movie.
yeah, I mean, it's an okay movie, but it's nothing to me. It's nothing special. It never has been. We had this discussion in the chat. We had this discussion. I think
podcast, man. What I come here for is trash.
Alien has it just wasn't part of my childhood. You know, I watched Predator. I was a Predator, Commando, Terminator guy. Alien just never hit my radar. Till years later, I watched it, and as an adult, I wasn't impressed. Anyway, I see Alien Isolation.
They can beat an alien is when they cheat. Oh.
I see Alien Isolation, and I'm like, oh, that looks cool, but I don't really care, you know. And it's not my favorite type of genre they went with. That, what is it? The
true survival horror.
Kind of, you know, that hide in the fucking locker, you know, that. Okay, it looks fine. Nothing I'm gonna go out and buy. It hit Game Pass. I downloaded it. I played 2 hours of it, and I moved on. Like that's just trying a long way to say, like, you might play a game, but if you really wanted to play it and were excited about it, you would play it when it comes out. Like, you're not gonna be like, there's not too many people like Robert. They're gonna play it a year from now because they're that behind. You know, like, if you want to play a game, you're going to play it and you're going to buy it. You're not going to wait for the chance of maybe it hitting Game Pass or PlayStation Plus. That's just how I feel. Maybe that's not how people look at it. But I'll tell you what.
Alien is literally the greatest movie ever made. I don't want to hear that bullshit.
You just ended the podcast.
It's a well-made movie. It just
well made.
It's a very well-made movie. It's probably some of the best set design ever in a movie. The story just... It's never done anything for me. I don't know how else to tell you. It's just like
it's literal art.
I can appreciate all the skill that went into it. It just doesn't have nothing. It doesn't get me from a suspense. It doesn't get me from scares. Nothing. It just doesn't work on me. I don't know. I know other people that feel the same way. So I'm not the only one. I thought I was the only one for a long time. I just
only other person is your cat.
No.
I bet his name's Jonesy.
Guy at work, and then my brother-in-law this summer. He's like, man, I don't know why Alien's such a big deal. He's like, I never got that. I never got into that franchise. And I was like, I'm the same way. Crazy.
Anyway, probably like CGI Avatar.
I nearly divorced my wife, man, over the Alien movie. I told you that before. She walked in a chest bursting scene.
Mm-hmm.
I had my sound on. I was on that shit, man. I was on the Stromo, and then all it is, that looks terrible. And I brought back to reality. I was just like, what'd you say?
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up. You know how, I don't know, you guys don't watch reaction channels and stuff, but the number one thing I see with these younger people is, oh, that's from the meme. That's where that meme comes from. They'll see like the most iconic shit and be like, oh, I know that from the meme. You know, that's how I knew the chest bursting scene my whole life without ever seeing that movie. I mean, you see it all the time. I used to watch like how movies were made. What was that? There was a 30-minute show on the weekends where they showed how movies were made. Hocus Pocus got it. They showed how the cat was CG, the mouth and stuff. I forget what it was called. But I had seen the chest bursting scene. I seen the spoof of it in Spaceballs. Saturday Night Live, whoever. I've seen it so many times before I seen the movie that when it happened in the movie, it literally had no effect on me because I was so numb to it. I can only imagine what it would have been.
That happened so much back then. It doesn't matter if it was Aliens, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, whatever. You know, it's just everything was taken. I mean, at the end of the day, that's like films like Hot Shots and and scary movies and all that stuff. You know, they all took that material.
Unfortunately, it's almost like being spoiled, like with what Retro likes to talk about. I had been spoiled on the chest bursting scene, so if I had not known that was coming, that probably would have blew my mind. But having seen it for most of up until I was
my uncle got me to watch that film when I was younger. Holy shit!
I'll tell you.
So I'll just quickly say this: like the chest burster scene for me is like the least. Like it's cool, but it's like the least cool thing about the movie. Why I like Alien 1 is because of the shit that I like. It's like Metroid Prime 1. It's ambient horror. Like the first half an hour is just blinking of light and little
like I said,
stuff,
it's literally probably the best set design most realistic set design I've ever seen in a movie. Like it's so convincing.
I mean, it's quite funny finishing on aliens since we're
Yeah.
talking about Metroid, you know.
It is. And Mr. True said he gets it. He was behind on games, but he was excited about Dread, so he's playing it. So he fit it in, and that's basically what I was saying. If you really want to play a game, you're gonna play it. The only people that are,
Yep.
I guess, if you're really
I was
tight budget wise or something, yeah, you're not. You might have to miss a game until price drop or till it hits a Game Pass or something. But for the majority of people, if you want to play a game like Call of Duty, it's not coming to Game Pass. They have no reason to bring those games to Game Pass, and they still sell at 60, now 70, $80, $100 collector's edition. They still sell, so obviously people still pay full price for new games.
How
So
about the GTA 5 on PS5 though? You ain't be paying $10 for that.
yeah, if they charge, well, I think that's not just PS5. That's coming to
when
Xbox.
it's a Megaton game hits for me, I become selfish, man. You know
Yeah, that's why.
that's how I've nearly completed this game already, because this weekend
Can
I
you
just like I wanted to
can
be
you
a
respect? Can you simultaneously respect Robert and also think he's completely flawed in his logic by his his strategy of playing games? I respect the willpower
Keep
to
playing
just
them in order, right?
to just say, you know what, Metroid Dread, I'll see you in late 2022. Like I couldn't do that.
I mean, to
I
be
respect
I
his
know
willpower, but I also think it's very
yeah.
flawed, and he's
But
some.
at the end of the day, he's also just started the Metroid franchise and stuff. So he might, as much as he loved Prime 1 and Prime 2 that he played, they're still relatively new games to him. So
Maybe he'll hit a
Kid.
couple of
He's
them.
a kid. He doesn't know Prime 2 and that kind of shit. But the thing with Robert is that, like, he's full of shit anyway with that stuff. Like, I admire how he does that and stuff. But he's full of shit, because if in Mario Odyssey 2 drops, he's going to play that shit instantly. Like, he's playing
He
like
did
Animal
play
Crossing.
Astro's
What was
Playroom out of
another game
order.
that came out? Like Breath of the Wild or whatever. If a game, that's like
Animal
said, like
Crossing.
Metroid doesn't mean anything for him, really, If
Animal
something
Crossing
comes out, I mean, like fucking Tearaway 2, this bitch is gonna put that in his system tomorrow.
Yeah, he did play Animal Crossing at launch. So there are exceptions. So yeah. Anyway, let's get out of here. I didn't plan on
Yeah,
doing 2 hours, but good discussion.
we managed it.
So I'm sure we'll find out if Robert listened tomorrow all the way to the end, because he'll
We
comment.
love you, man.
We didn't even call it Terrell.
We do love you, man. We do love you.
What should we say about Terrell? Let's see if he watched the podcast to the end.
We already made like all the anime shit. You were laughing at anime poses and that kind of shit. Like Terrell's all about the anime poses.
Wait there, isn't he the fake anime guy who hasn't even played Astral Chain? That fake Platinum Games fan.
Yeah, he's
Bogus,
he
man.
likes to stream games and not pay attention to them and have people talking over his Metroid Dread experience. So
I missed all that.
yeah. Anyway, T, hope he moved, and appreciate him. He stopped it yesterday. He was going to be here. He just couldn't make it today. But yeah, appreciate everybody for tuning in, and hopefully got some enjoyment. We talked for this long about Metroid pretty much the whole time.
Yeah, man, like that's that.
And we didn't even get into like super specific stuff. That's what's crazy. Like, but yeah, I'm gonna take my time. I will say I'm gonna close on this. It has nothing to do with the quality of the game, the quality of the genre. We're the genre list on my favorite. I just play games differently, like Retro once said, a wise man. Metroidvania, I will use the term. I'm good for maybe hour chunks. And it's not because I'm not having fun. It's because, I know Dread's a little bit shorter than, like, in Ori. They're not super long. They're not 20, 30-hour games. So I want it to I don't want to be done with the game and be moved on. Like, I want this to last me the whole month. So I play in about 1 hour blocks, and I'm perfectly happy with that. I've done it for all these style games, whether it's SteamWorld Dig 2, Ukulele, and the Impossible Lair. Well, that's not Metroidvania, but
SteamWorld Dig 2,
Ori
that's a
1 and
good
2,
game, man.
Shantae, doesn't matter. This genre, it's just how I've always played them, and I'm happy to still be playing Metroid Dread when November comes, to be honest. So that's just how I've always played it. So, but anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll be back next week, and who knows what we'll be talking about, because you never know. There could be a surprise. No, there won't be a direct, but oh wait, when is the Animal Crossing? Is that
Friday, bitch.
That's
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
So you guys can
3 days.
you guys
I'm
can
so
fill me
fucking
in
ready.
on all the updates and stuff. So we'll be talk about that and whatever else. Till next time. Peace.
You need my address,